Picture this. It's early morning. The house is quiet. Too quiet. You're sipping coffee, staring at a family photo from years ago when the phone rings. Your heart lifts until you realize it's just another robocall. This isn't a scene from a movie. It's the reality so many of us face as the years roll by. But here's what they don't tell you. The moments that feel like endings can become beginnings. Today we're sharing stories, real stories, from people who've walked this path. Not the sugar-coated advice you'll find on greeting cards, but raw, honest truths about love, loss, and the quiet courage it takes to rebuild when life doesn't go as planned. You'll meet folks like Dorothy, who learned too late that kindness without boundaries can cost you your soul. Or James, who discovered friendship isn't always a two-way street. These aren't tales of regret. They're roadmaps. Why stick around? Because somewhere in these next minutes, you might hear a sentence that clicks into place like a missing puzzle piece. One that helps you breathe a little easier, stand a little taller, and think, maybe I'm not as alone as I felt this morning. Part 1. The pain of being too good. Let's start with Dorothy's story. For 40 years, she worked as a nurse, soothing crying children in emergency rooms and holding the hands of strangers in their final moments. At home, she did the same for her family. She skipped her own anniversary dinners to babysit grandkids, lent money she couldn't afford to spare, smiled through birthday parties where no one asked about her day. I thought love meant never saying no, Dorothy told me. But one morning I looked in the mirror and saw a ghost. Not the vibrant woman who'd saved lives, but someone even I didn't recognize anymore. Here's the hard truth she learned. Kindness without boundaries is like watering dead plants. Dorothy's children still called, but only when they needed something. Her ex-husband, who'd left her for a younger woman, still sent guilt-tripping letters. For years, she thought, if I just love them harder, they'll change. They didn't, but she did. At 75, Dorothy did something radical. She wrote a letter, not to her family, but to herself. It said, "You matter too." She stopped answering calls that left her drained, declined requests that felt like obligations, started spending Sundays at the library, rediscovering her love for mystery novels. It wasn't easy, she admitted, but for the first time, I felt free. Not bitter, not resentful, just free. Boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges back to yourself. Saying no to others can mean saying yes to the life you've earned. Try this. Next time someone asks for a favor, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of love or fear? Start small. Say no to one thing this week that drains your spirit. Dorothy's story isn't about cutting people off. It's about refusing to lose yourself in the act of loving others. Because here's the secret no one tells you. The people who truly care about you won't love you less for prioritizing yourself. They'll respect you more. Part 2. The illusion of thinking. Others think like you. Let's talk about James. For 30 years, he and his best friend Mike were inseparable. They coached Little League together, stood by each other through divorces, even split a timeshare in Florida. I'd have taken a bullet for him, James said, and I assumed he'd do the same. Then at 62, James lost his job. Not just any job, the one he'd held for 28 years. The calls to Mike started earnest. "Let's grab a beer, man. I need to vent." Then pleading, "Mike, you there?" Then silence. "Turns out," James said, "our friendship only worked when I was the strong one." Here's the bitter pill. Assuming others share your heart is like handing them a map to hurt you. James had always been the fixer, the guy who showed up with a toolbox, a joke, or a check. But when he needed fixing, the phone went cold. I felt foolish, or he admitted, not because he ghosted me, but because I'd spent decades assuming loyalty instead of seeing it. Not everyone loves the way you love, and that's okay. Disappointment comes not from others' flaws, but from the stories we tell ourselves about who they should be. Try this. Look back at a relationship that hurt you. Ask, did they ever really show me who they were? Or did I just hope they'd become who I needed? Start small. Notice one interaction this week where you're projecting your values onto someone else. Pause, observe, adjust. James didn't cut Mike out of his life. He just stopped expecting him to be someone he wasn't. "I still wave when I see him," he said, "but now I save my heart for the folks who show up instead of just showing off." The lesson here isn't cynicism, it's clarity. When you stop trying to change people, you free yourself to love them as they are, or walk away with your dignity intact. Part 3. Self-awareness is freedom. Let's sit with Gloria for a moment. For years, she blamed everyone else for her loneliness. Her children rarely visited. Old friends drifted away. Even her book club meetings felt hollow. "I'd come home and cry," she said. "I thought, after all I've done, how could they abandon me?" Then one rainy Tuesday, Gloria did something unexpected. She canceled her weekly bridge game, the one she'd attended dutifully for 15 years, even though the women there gossiped endlessly. Instead, she sat at her kitchen table with a pen and paper. At the top, she wrote, "What am I pretending not to see?" The answers shocked her. "I realized I'd been clinging to people who didn't value me because I didn't value myself," Gloria said. "I stayed in that toxic bridge group not for companionship, but because I was afraid of being alone with me." Here's the revelation. Self-awareness isn't about fixing flaws. It's about seeing yourself clearly enough to stop repeating old mistakes. Gloria started asking herself 2 questions daily. Am I doing this out of habit or choice? What would the version of me who truly loves herself do right now? Slowly, she began to change. She quit the bridge group, took up watercolor painting, started calling her daughter not out of obligation, but genuine curiosity. Turns out, Gloria laughed, when I stopped demanding love, I started attracting it. The moment you stop blaming others is the moment you reclaim your power. Clarity about yourself isn't painful. It's liberating. Try this. Write down one recurring frustration in your life. Ask, what role might I be playing in keeping this pattern alive? Start small. Spend 5 minutes today just observing your habits without judgment, like a scientist studying a fascinating stranger. Gloria's story isn't about becoming perfect. It's about trading the heavy armor of self-deception for the light of honesty. Because here's the truth. You can't heal what you refuse to name. Part 4. What you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. Let's talk about Mr. Patterson. At 80, he's the kind of man who irons his flannel shirts and polishes his shoes, even if he's just walking to the mailbox. People think it's vanity, he told me, but it's not about looking good. It's about feeling alive. There was a time, though, when he stopped caring. After his wife passed, he spent months in stained sweatpants, unshaven, avoiding mirrors. I figured, what's the point? Nobody sees me anyway. Then one day his granddaughter visited. She didn't comment on his appearance. Instead, she hugged him and whispered, "Grandpa, you're still here." That shook me, he said. I realized I wasn't dressing for others. I was reminding myself I mattered. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Neglecting yourself teaches others to neglect you too. Mr. Patterson started small. He shaved, ironed one shirt, took a daily walk around the block, nodding at neighbors. Slowly, something shifted. The woman at the grocery store began asking about his day. His son started calling just to chat. Turns out, he chuckled, when you treat yourself like you're worth noticing, others notice too. Self-respect isn't vanity, it's a language. The way you care for yourself tells the world, this is how I deserve to be treated. Try this. Tomorrow, do one thing that makes you feel put together, even if you're staying home. Comb your hair. Wear that necklace you've been saving. Start small. Stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm still here. Say it until you believe it. Mr. Patterson's lesson isn't about impressing others. It's about this. Dignity isn't something people give you. It's something you claim. You don't need expensive clothes or a perfect body. You just need to show up for yourself day after day in ways that whisper, I haven't given up on me. Part 5. Knowing when to leave. Let's sit with Carolyn for a moment. For 20 years, her friendship with Linda was like a second marriage. They raised kids side by side, mourned lost parents together, and even bought matching porch swings. We talked every day, Carolyn said, but over time, every conversation became a complaint about her husband, the neighbors, me. The breaking point came during a phone call. Linda spent 40 minutes criticizing Carolyn's decision to adopt a rescue dog. She said, at your age, you're just asking for heartbreak. I hung up and thought, When did this become my life? Here's the quiet truth. Not every goodbye needs a fight. Sometimes love means leaving without a word. Carolyn didn't block Linda's number or send an angry text. She simply stopped reaching out. The first month was agony, she admitted. I'd pick up the phone, then remember. She doesn't fill my cup anymore. She just spills it. What surprised her? The relief that followed. She joined a gardening club, took solo trips to botanical gardens. Turns out I like my own company, she laughed. I just needed to stop drowning out my thoughts with someone else's noise. Walking away isn't failure. It's faith. Faith that there's more to life than clinging to what was, and courage to make space for what could be. Try this. Reflect on a relationship that leaves you drained. Ask, does this person make me feel like more of myself or less? Start small. Spend one evening this week doing something you love, alone. No explanations, no guilt. Carolyn's story isn't about burning bridges. It's about realizing some relationships are seasons, not lifetimes, and that's okay. Letting go isn't cruel. It's saying, I love myself enough to stop settling for crumbs when I deserve the whole meal. Part 6. Loneliness, Truth, and the Cost of Honesty. Let's talk about Harold. At 74, he's the kind of man who says exactly what he thinks. Not to be cruel, but because he's tired of dancing around the truth. When his grandson asked why he'd stopped attending family reunions, Harold replied, because half of you only care about my will, not my wisdom. The fallout was swift. Relatives called him bitter. Cousins unfriended him on Facebook. But Harold didn't flinch. I'd rather sit alone with my integrity, he said, than crowd myself with people who need me to lie to feel comfortable. Here's the paradox. Honesty doesn't create loneliness. It reveals it. Harold spent years biting his tongue at family gatherings, laughing at offensive jokes, nodding while relatives mocked his old-fashioned values. I thought keeping peace was worth the cost, he said, but all it cost me was me. When he finally spoke up, some left, but others stayed and surprised him. A niece reached out to discuss his views on forgiveness. A long-estranged brother apologized for past slights. Turns out, Harold said, truth acts like a magnet. It repels the fake and attracts the real. Loneliness isn't the price of honesty, it's the process. Like polishing a stone, friction reveals your true shape. Try this. Write down one truth you've been avoiding. You don't have to share it, just acknowledge it to yourself. Start small. Next time someone says something that bothers you, say, I see it differently, and leave it at that. Harold's lesson isn't about burning bridges, it's about this. When you stop letting others edit your truth, you become a sanctuary for yourself and the people who truly belong in your life. Part 7. Self-care is often silent. Let's sit with Alice. At 70, she's learned that healing doesn't always look heroic. No dramatic confrontations, no fiery speeches, just small, quiet acts of letting go. Years ago, Alice reconnected with her estranged sister after a decade of silence. They met for coffee, exchanged polite updates, and promised to stay in touch. But when Alice texted later to share a memory of their mother, her sister replied, Let's not dwell on the past. That's when I knew, Alice said. Some people don't want resolution. They want permission to keep hurting you. So she did something radical. Nothing. No angry email. No tearful plea. She simply stopped initiating contact. I forgave her in my heart, Alice explained, but forgiveness doesn't mean handing someone another knife. Here's the unspoken truth. Self-care isn't always soft. Sometimes it's the steel resolve to close doors without slamming them. Alice filled her silence with new rhythms. Morning bird watching, volunteering at an animal shelter, writing haiku in a leather-bound journal. I used to think closure meant mutual understanding, she said. Now I know it's just another word for peace. Walking away quietly isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You don't owe anyone access to your healing. Try this. Write a letter to someone who hurt you. Burn it. Let the ashes remind you. Not everything needs a response. Start small. Delete one contact, unsubscribe from one toxic newsletter, or mute one negative voice, digital or real. Alice's story isn't about winning. It's about this. The most powerful form of self-respect often looks like stillness. You don't have to explain, perform, or prove. Just release. If there's one thread weaving through all these stories, it's this. You don't have to wait for life to get easier. You just need to grow gentler with yourself. Dorothy's boundaries, James's clarity, Gloria's self-awareness, Mr. Patterson's dignity, Carolyn's quiet exit, Harold's truth, Alice's silent healing. They all lead here. Everything is going to be all right. Maybe not today, but eventually. Life isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a mosaic of messy, glorious contradictions, betrayal and loyalty, loneliness and connection, loss and discovery. But here's the secret they don't teach you in school. What you carry forward is a choice. So to anyone watching this, whether you're 25 or 85, here's your invitation. Set boundaries without apology. Speak truth without malice. Press your wrinkles like they're medals, not flaws. Walk away when the cost of staying is your soul. Forgive in the quiet of your heart, no audience needed. Heal in ways that don't require applause. And never, ever stop learning, not from books, but from the quiet moments. The way light slants through your window at 3 p.m., the courage it takes to sit with silence, the freedom of outgrowing what once defined you. As Tom, 79, told me, the best life lessons don't come with certificates. They come with scars and stories. So if you take nothing else from this video, take this. You've survived every hard day so far. You've loved deeply enough to hurt. You've earned the right to peace. And long after the credits roll, long after the screen fades to black, your story isn't over. It's just becoming truer. Thank you for listening. Now go live your truth.